we support each other. And it's because we don't have the same point of view on everything, where things actually turn out better than if we actually probably were completely 100% aligned. Because we're able to find, well, what is the sweet spot for the different arguments and inputs that are happening right now? And what do we want the outcome to be like? Not that we have a crystal ball, but we can at least try to shape which direction we want to go.
It feels collaborative. And I didn't have that feeling in past relationships.
Again, we're in it together.
Yeah.
Welcome to Money Dates, the podcast that makes money conversations with your partner feel a little less taboo. I'm Natalie Slagle, a certified financial planner, and I'm joined by my husband and business partner, Dan Slagle, also a certified financial planner. Say hi, Dan.
Hello.
In each episode, we'll share honest stories and practical tips to help you and your partner feel more connected and confident on your financial journey. So grab your drink, get comfortable, and join us for our Money Dates.
Today on Money Dates, we have PJ and Jessica. PJ is a software architect with 2 decades of experience in tech, currently dedicated to the mission-driven world of public service. A conservatory-trained French horn player originally from Minnesota, PJ brings a unique blend of classical discipline and technical precision to their life in Southern California. When not architecting complex systems, they are usually traveling or exploring an intentional second act with their fiancée, Jessica. Jessica is a licensed psychologist working in telehealth while building her private practice specializing in EMDR and ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. Outside of work, she loves planning future vacations, trying new restaurants with friends, and catching up on a good show. She's also a big fan of spending time in the sun whenever she can recharge, while, of course, wearing sunscreen and donning a hat. PJ and Jessica, welcome to Money Dates.
Let's start off talking about how the two of you met. I'd love to hear a little bit about the beginnings. Let's go there.
So we met in an online dating app in 2018.
Which app?
I'm looking at you like, is this right? Coffee Meets Bagel.
Wonderful.
I don't know if it exists
I don't know if
anymore.
it's still around, but it was
I've
like
never heard
cute.
of that before.
Lots of people haven't actually.
Okay.
But it was like a little bagel, a little coffee, and whatever. I was actually still legally married, but going through a divorce. You had already divorced legally. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. It's 8 years at the end of this month, actually.
Yeah.
Was that a connection you had from the get-go? Was just what you were going through?
Divorce?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's other ways that we connected, but I think of course it was like a topic.
Well, I did a little bit. I was actually on a divorce vacation that my friend invited me out to visit for 3 weeks to just get away. So when you're on the dating apps, it uses your GPS to figure out your location to show people. I'm like, I don't want to just look at people in Washington State. I don't live here. So I faked my GPS coordinate location on my phone so I could see people in Minneapolis area where I was living at the time. So I guess when we started talking, there was this delay that we actually couldn't see each other in person for almost 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time just talking on the phone.
Like teenagers till 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. You had enough to talk about till 2 a.m.
I think I walked 14 miles on the beach one night in the dark.
Oh,
so you're like, is that our first date? Like I was walking on the beach with you. I was just at home, but
yeah.
So this was in Minnesota, your first date?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
PJ, you were in Washington. Jess, you were in Minnesota.
I mean, I guess, is that our first date? Yeah.
Yes, I guess that was our first date. Yeah. Our actual first person date, you almost actually left.
Oh my gosh.
I had a broken muffler on my car and I rolled up in a nice, very loud Honda Civic. And Jess was like, no way. And so she decided to still come in.
But I took a pause.
Yeah.
I did. I was like, do I just ghost you now? Judging based on the car that you're driving. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not that.
If the tables were turned, if I drove up in a loud car to Dan would dip. Loud cars are not Dan's thing. Nope. He'd be like, I'm out.
As long as you explained what was going on with the vehicle within maybe the first few minutes, then I think I would give you a pass.
I don't even know if it came up on that date necessarily, but you very shortly thereafter did know, because I was feeling like some sort of way about it. I don't know, guilt or shame or something. So then I told you, but I also think like it probably just came up naturally because you probably said something about it was like your first and like pretty much only car. Well, you and your ex had another car and she got that in the divorce.
But it like broke right before I left. So I came back to a broken car, and that was just not something we could fix in time.
What was the situation here? Were you like, did you meet somewhere and Jess, you heard the muffler, or PJ, did you pick Jess up?
Yeah, we met at a distillery. No, we met at a distillery because I was like, we're meeting in person for the first time and I'm not going home with this person, blah, blah, blah. So we're driving separately and meeting at this place, because then also if your muffler's like hanging off and I want to dip, then I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there we go.
But then I did follow PJ home anyway.
At some point you started living together, and being that we talk about finances and how couples handle the finances, were the two of you talking about your finances and how you wanted to set it up before moving in together, or it all happened while you were living together, you were figuring it out? Talk to me about when those conversations first started, if you recall.
I feel like they started pretty quickly.
I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes they had done before in the past. So it was really important to be upfront with, if I was dating someone, and especially that we were moving in, that like, hey, this wasn't really good for me before. I'd like to do this differently. Not to say that doing it differently will give different results, but it was one of those things that we could actually sit down and, I guess, get a temperature check on is this working? Is this not working?
Yeah, because we each owned our own place. So PJ owned a house and I owned like a 1-bedroom condo. And so then moving in, we moved into PJ's house. And then we had to talk about kind of like, hey, I need to rent this. And like, what does my mortgage look like? And then like, are you wanting me to pay like rent for your place? Or like at the time I had student loans, and that was like taking up a good percentage of my after rent, like my income.
I made a deal with you. Mm-hmm. It was, well, you don't have to pay rent. That seems stupid. My mortgage was really low at the time. It was in the days of like 2.85% on interest rates.
RIP. Yes.
Yeah. But I was like, well, you have student loans, so don't pay any rent. Put all the extra money towards student loans. I would be disappointed if that doesn't happen, because it's an opportunity to retire that.
Yeah, like
that debt at a much faster rate than you were doing before. Mm-hmm. And that's what you ended up doing. Yeah. I think you paid your student loans off in 18 months or something at that point?
Something like that. Yeah. Because I was able to basically put almost double.
Yeah. Snowballs quite quickly.
Okay. So when you moved in, to me, I'm hearing that you two actually tackled Jess's student loans kind of collectively because of how you split things up. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I was fine living alone and paying my mortgage by myself without any problems. So there was no reason to be like, collect rent. Mm-hmm. It seemed kind of ridiculous if we were going to combine our lives together, which we had already sort of started in different ways at that point. It was just important that money is spent well.
Mm-hmm. I also owned another property in a different state at the time. And actually, yes, so I was selling that property. And within the first month of us meeting, so we'd been talking maybe for not even 2 months, PJ and I got on a plane because I needed to go like purchase another property to like do the 1031 exchange.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway. And so, yeah. And you were like, but this isn't my money. And I was like, but like, if we're together, then this is part of like a discussion we're going to be having, because it's like another mortgage that needs to be paid. And if like I'm dealing with tenants, that's part of what we're going to talk about. My ex was just like not interested in being part of that conversation. So I was very like, if we're dating, like this is part of my life. And so like, might as well be involved.
You basically were like, are you in? Yeah. This is what you get.
This is what you, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to put it on the table, and we're going to. Do you recall the initial feelings the two of you had when you were talking about money? Was it scary? Was it fun? Was it nerve? Like, what were the feelings that were coming up when the conversations of money first started?
I think I was in such a place where it wasn't like scary, because I just felt so like going through a divorce, you're just kind of like, well, at least I felt like really vulnerable. And so everything was just kind of like on the table. And I was also very aware of like things I wasn't like relational dynamics, especially related to finances that I wasn't wanting to repeat. And this was one of them. And so it just was almost like a non-negotiable. Like if you're not wanting to have conversation, you're not wanting to be a part of this, then like, okay, that's fine. But I'm not really sure that it wasn't like an ultimatum, but it was just kind of like, I don't know if this is going to work out.
I totally remember even before this, like at the very beginning, I was like, so here's how my divorce shaped out. Here's my divorce decree. This is how my finances look.
Forgot about that.
Like within the first few weeks of us meeting in person.
Yeah.
And I remember shortly thereafter when you're finally all the judge paperwork stuff took care of it because they just delayed it so much. You're like, here it is. This is how it all shook out. You need to know where I'm at based on where I ended up.
Yeah.
So I think transparency, was maybe the key word from the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know that we went down and said, hey, let's be transparent about this. I think there was a lot of dynamics of we don't want to repeat what we did before in the past.
Yeah.
So it was naturally like a magnetism to go towards.
Would you be open to sharing what some of those mistakes, I'll call them, were in the past that you were trying to avoid?
I feel like my ex and I didn't really talk a lot about money. And so there were things that were going on in that person's personal accounts that we had a joint account, but I don't think we really used it that much. But anyway, that I didn't know about. Right. And so like, I remember being at meeting with, it was tax time. And so we were sitting with the CPA or whatever. And that's when I learned that my ex had taken out 401k to pay for jewelry to give me for our wedding that I like didn't even want. Well, okay. I don't mean like I didn't want it, but like, it like asked for it. It wasn't necessary. And I was like excited, of course, when I got it. And then I found that out and I immediately was like, I don't need this. You're going to take this jewelry back.
You didn't want it paid for by that. That made you not want it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was like, this was not like, yes. I was jaw on the ground.
Yeah.
Because then we had to pay a penalty.
Yes. Oh, it wasn't even a 401k loan. It was just a distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. Oh yeah. And then you see that penalty on your tax return and you're like, what is going on? Take it off. I don't want it. Who do I need to call?
Like had I known, I would have just been like, nope, I don't need this jewelry for this occasion.
But kind of an eye-opening experience on, well, what else is happening that we're not talking about? What about for you, PJ?
I came from a different point of view. My ex and I only had joint accounts. We didn't have any separate personal accounts. That boundary wasn't there. And while that makes accounting relatively simple, it usually ends up just being one person who's taking care of it, which was mostly me. But then I also didn't feel like I could spend money on myself because it was coming out of a joint account, or that I needed to, I don't know, ask for permission in advance. So I basically learned I need to have a little bit set aside for myself because I am working really hard for this. This is money that I made for myself. And yes, I'm willing to share it with my partner and put it towards our shared expenses. But I should have a little bit on the side for myself that I can spend in any way that I want and not have those, why did you spend $5 for a coffee conversations? Well, I'm not going into debt. It's okay if I want to spend $5 on coffee this month.
Yeah. So just needing a little bit more independence. Dan and I have also felt that we needed to create something for us that we're like, I don't want to have to ask permission to buy a shirt. I'm an adult with a job.
Yeah.
I don't want.
If it feels like an allowance, I feel like something's not set up properly. And I don't need to ask to use the money that I'm earning to a certain extent, right? Like I especially in your example, PJ, like the $5 coffee, I don't feel like you should need to ask for permission at the end of the day for something like that. And even if you don't need to, it just the feeling of like you should ask for it is not a comforting feeling.
Definitely not.
So you two, prior to the recording, when we were talking about things that we were going to talk about, one of the phrases that you emailed us about was kind of dropping this forensic accounting approach. And I like how you use that because I'm sure when I say the words forensic accounting and especially when it comes to like cash flow and budgeting. People know what I'm talking about. And not everybody likes that term. So what approach has been working for the two of you?
I think it's a redefinition of what equal means. I mean, I think it's very easy for us as humans to say, let's split it. And our minds go towards 50-50.
Yes.
And well, that's great and all, but both of us make different amounts of money. And it's $1,000 for me is different than $1,000 for Jess. And that's not equal. If we're both having to, especially on big things like say rent, since we're renting, to spend 50-50, one person's left at a disadvantage, the other person has extra money, essentially. And it's kind of no fun to realize like, hey, we're in this together, which means our finances are paired together. But that doesn't necessarily mean we need to have that forensic accounting where we split things 50-50. It's not worth it.
What have you set up?
Well, for big stuff, we've talked about like rent. We do like a 60-40 split, and that's just automatically taken out of our paychecks and put into a joint account. So don't even see that in our personal accounts to spend. There's no temptation. And it just, to me, I don't see any difference to it. It's like, oh, that's just money out there. I'm okay with that. It's normal.
And that feels like equitable.
It does.
Right. Because if it's whatever percentage, right, it's like doesn't have to be an equal amount, right? We're not both saying like, oh, we're putting $1,200 in each, right? Or whatever. I'm just making a number up. But it feels like, I don't feel strapped then to feel like, hey, I'm giving more. Even if the dollar amount would have been the same, I feel like I'm giving more because I don't make as much.
But the thing is, you work equally as hard, if not harder than I do.
Right.
So that's the difference.
So the 60-40, is it 60 PJ, 40 Jess?
Correct.
Yeah.
And do you have to look at that percentage often? I know it depends on your jobs and how you're paid, but how do you know that 60-40 is equitable?
I'd say that our salaries each are pretty stable over time. You have some adjustments, like a cost of living adjustment that you might get that I'm not getting. And so I'd say that it's not something that I think about too frequently. If there's something where you're like, wow, I just got a promotion or something and I'm making $20,000 more and I'm still just like, just making my same amount here. Like we would maybe look at that or have looked at that.
I think the last time was when our rent was raised. We looked at it and we both were like, oh, well, we're going to have to contribute a little bit more money to cover that because we pretty much draw that joint account close to zero every month because it kind of, that's our fixed expenses account. And so we basically redid our payroll deductions at that time. It was pretty much a vibe check. Like, how do you feel about that? I think you increased yours a little bit more than the 60-40 and mine just a little bit less, but it's still roughly around 60-40.
Yeah.
So we don't really look at it. It's something we've discussed and it's for our lease.
I think, it's less about sitting down and like crunching the numbers, but we'll just have conversations about like if the car is needing to be fixed or something, or tabs or things like that come up and you're like, oh yeah, this thing again. Okay. Or it's unexpected, a fix to the vehicle or something, right? We'll just kind of talk about, how are we going to do that? What feels right? Whatever that means to us, that we both feel good about, that we're contributing, but we feel it's again, like an equitable amount. Or it might just say like, hey, like we go to Costco and that can ebb and flow in terms of how much you're spending, but it's in the same ballpark most times. And so we just trade off. So like if last time you paid, I just know next time's my time. And that's just, we've kind of like spoken about that and every so often we'll check in. Same thing with like vacation or different things.
There's times where we were like, we just came back from a vacation and we got back and we had a lot more expenses on our credit card. Not that we didn't expect that. We spent money on a vacation. We had a great time. But there was a part like, I went out and I looked at my credit card. I'm like, ooh, this just doesn't feel great. Like and it's because I made a couple other purchases too. And I ended up making a return for one thing just because I'm like, this is not feeling great. I want to get to the end of the month and not feel terrible about what this bill looks like. And so I ended up doing that. So I think we both value our sanity in this over that, like, well, we must be absolutely precise. And by the way, that's like really hard for me not to want to be precise as a software engineer. Everything is ones and zeros. It's on and off. So letting go of this is kind of a big deal for me.
Oh, I bet. I bet there is. I would struggle with that too. I think Dan is more of the high level, more of, what feels good. I tend to get a little bit more in the weeds. And the more I've started to let go of the details, the better I feel. And so I love that the two of you are talking about, well, just how are we feeling about this? We just got back and I'm looking at my credit card and I had a not so good feeling. So I'm going to address that instead of only using the numbers to guide your decisions. You're actually just reflecting back. I really appreciate that. So you mentioned, PJ, you were talking about your previous relationship, everything being joint and then not feeling like you had this individuality in how you get to utilize your resources. So could you talk to us a little bit about the mechanics? So we know the 60-40 is happening. And so I'm assuming there's this joint account. Is that how it's working? And then you also have individual. Could you talk about the mechanics of how this is all working in your household?
Yeah, we both have our own individual checking and savings accounts, essentially. We do see what's in each other's accounts.
I never look.
You never look. I keep a little bit more of it. There's my forensic accounting going on there. I just like to know what's going on.
So PJ, you're looking at both. You're looking at yours and Jess's.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jess, you're like, I'm not even looking at mine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at my own.
You don't think you look at mine.
But
hey, I can tell you why you don't look at it.
Yeah.
We got engaged last year in December and I bought Jess a ring and I spent many, many thousands of dollars on it and just never noticed that money missing out of my savings account.
I'm just sitting here chill.
I was worried that you're going to be like, so I see this money, this number is far lower than it was before. What's that about?
So a nice little test.
You took the risk and it paid off. Congratulations, by the way.
It did.
Yeah. Congratulations on the engagement. That's so exciting.
I had my own, okay, if she asked, I know exactly what I'm going to say. Well, Jess, I worked during the government shutdown last fall and therefore I drew from my savings and I just haven't paid myself back yet.
You had the lie.
I remember us having somewhat of a...
Oh, what terrible lie. Yeah. I have to make it somewhat true. So I had to I was, working without pay.
Truth. Yeah. I remember us having a very similar-ish conversation about something like, oh, hey, I might just move this money around for X. And I was like, okay,
great.
That all makes sense to me. Great. So I think you would had the conversation with me and I still had no idea what was going on. I was like, yeah, cover yourself. All right.
So I like that you have your own checking and savings. We've got some joint accounts, but you mentioned something that I think some couples, a step that is forgotten about, which is still the transparency. So it's not like you two, it seems like have purposely chosen to be able, whether you look or not is a separate decision, but you have the ability to see what's going on if you want. There's some transparency that it sounds like you wanted to have. This was an intentional decision.
Yes.
Yeah, because I didn't feel like there was a lot of that transparency in my previous marriage or relationship. And I think for me, there's something about it's like just knowing that it's there, right? I could go access it anytime. And so that just provides some sort of I don't know if it's about safety or something, right? But doesn't mean I'm going to go look at it, but I could, right? It's like, oh, I've stopped smoking, but I still have the emergency one in the glass that I could break if I need to. It's there.
Yeah.
I'm never going to use it, but it's just, there's something psychological, about that sense of safety or something.
So the two of you, congrats again on the engagement. You have a wedding, I'm assuming, upcoming maybe in the next year or so. I'm sure you're in the early stages of planning. Now, you've talked about how you go about splitting expenses on a day-to-day basis or month-to-month proportionately relative to income. How are the two of you approaching such a large expenditure when it comes to, for example, your wedding?
I think we figured out that the wedding is individually an equal experience for us in the terms of 50-50.
Different.
So we both want things. Yes, it's different.
Okay.
Well, it's not getting how much you get paid per hour. So it's not how much time you spend to make $1,000 or for me to make $1,000. we're in this together and we want it to be memorable. I think it was just important that like, it's about our love and how we want to celebrate it. And that's not a 60-40 split. I don't think we sit down and be like, well, I love you more than you do.
So I will
or
pay
vice
more.
versa.
Careful. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that was important, but like coming down for like planning a budget for it, I think we both had different numbers in mind. Essentially, we wrote them down. We didn't actually write them down, but I said, okay, you pick what you think the budget should be based on what you know about our finances and what we would want to spend. Mind you, I don't think either of us wanted to go into debt over it. So we wanted to do it out of what we had set aside and saved before previously. And I picked my own number and we both kind of said them out loud at the same time. And your number was exactly twice as much as mine.
I love that. Do you mind sharing your numbers? Is that something you're comfortable sharing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What was yours?
Oh, mine was like, was mine the actual number?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, mine was like $40,000.
Yeah.
I thought it could be more. I actually like went down a little bit to try to have a middle ground. I could have probably said 50,000. So the way that I like to set a budget, we'll start there, is I like to be like, oh, okay, I think that something might be $100. So I will just automatically double it to 200 and then I'll do something else and it'll be like 250 because I like to be able to say, wow, that thing only costs $200. I put aside 250 and I am winning this. I have an extra $50 now and that feels good versus, well, I put 200 aside and it's 250 and now I'm out $50. Like, where am I going to get this $50 from? I can't. I want to leave that situation feeling like it was a success. I don't know what that says about me, but there it is.
40 was yours. So PJ, yours was 20?
Correct. Which was almost 4 times what I spent on my first wedding. So I already felt like I was stretching it.
And that was less than I spent on my first wedding. And we did like a lot of stuff all on our own.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, really?
So what is the number now?
It's 40.
It's 40.
Interesting. How did we get to that?
I think it took like 30 seconds for me. Maybe it felt like 30 seconds to me.
I feel like, okay, maybe this is in my own fantasy, but I feel like I did a good job of like sharing with you why I thought 20 was not going to be enough and that I had a non-negotiable kind of.
Are you saying you perform psychological warfare on me?
Well, she's a professional.
Maybe, I don't know. It just happens. Yeah.
Yes. Mind.
That I just was like, I'm not going to repeat this. I'm running around to the liquor store because I am my own everything for this wedding or that my spouse and I are like running around. It was so stressful. I will not repeat it. My ex and I had decided purposefully not to have a wedding planner because we just thought it was not an expense that was necessary. And I'm pretty much like, we've had a conversation. Like it's like not, I can be a little bit flexible maybe, but I don't think I can. I think that's just me trying to be nice right now. It's a non-negotiable. Like we're having a wedding planner and they're going to do all the stuff and I'm just going to show up and I'm going to be super chill and I'm not going to be running around. I'm just going to be like, great. If there's an issue I don't know about because someone else that we are paying to do a great job, keeping me out of it is doing their job. And I'll happily give them some money for that. I would actually happily take money from somewhere else for that.
I will pay more for that.
I had no problem with that.
Yeah. Like, that's great.
Okay. So you're each contributing 20,000 to the wedding. And is this coming from your single savings accounts? What is from cash flow?
Yeah, it's both coming from our individual savings accounts of money that we had set aside. Some of it being left over from our attempts at wanting to buy a place and having a big down payment, which that of course has changed to another story. But we took that money and we put it into a joint savings account separate from our checking, which is our kind of like month to month stuff. And, that kind of account has buckets. So you can label the different buckets of money and that's in a wedding bucket and it's fully funded and we're just not touching it.
It's already funded.
It doesn't even exist to me. Yeah.
It's funded.
Yeah. I don't have to worry about it.
So I think my only thing on the budget is I don't want to go into debt over this. I feel like that's a terrible way to start a marriage. I mean, we've been living together for almost 8 years, or 7 years, I guess. And so I'm like, I don't want to backslide. Yeah. I want to continue what we've already built on.
Yeah.
And so that was important. Like, I understand sometimes there are some small cost overruns, but what I didn't want to do is wake up the next morning and be like, so how do we spend $75,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. That would feel awful.
It would. I'd be kind of disappointed in myself.
What about the timeline with your wedding, right? You've mentioned that the wedding is already funded, which is incredible. I think the two of you have alluded to potentially waiting until 2027, I believe, for the wedding. Is there a financial reason for that?
No, the reason, at least for me, was it takes a while to like find. I think you and I had very different wedding planning experiences. Literally, one of our conversations the other day when we were looking at a venue was you were like, the woman asked if we had colors picked out yet. And I said, no, but my colors for my first wedding were like an orange and blue color. So I don't want to, repeat that. And you were like, colors? What? And I was like, didn't you have colors for your first wedding? And you were like, no. And I was like, didn't she have like flowers? And you were like, yeah. And I said, what colors were they? Those are colors. Didn't you have things that like tied together? Like, come on. I like had this welcome moment, man. Welcome. Anyway.
There was 9 people at my wedding. That included me and my ex, the officiant that actually married us. So there were a total of 6 guests.
That's why your wedding was so not a lot of dollars.
And it was in a courthouse, very, very small, and a very small reception afterwards. And so, I guess you would say we eloped. That was how it happened. We actually mailed cards to our family announcing, that we were getting married because they didn't know that was happening, on the way to the airport for our honeymoon. So my parents got to field phone calls of, oh, I guess they're married now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I didn't want, it was very secretive, ultimately looking in the back, way back. Some of it was just to avoid some family drama that was going on at the time. And I think now I'm older and more adept at like, oh, this is my time. If you want to go have a tantrum, then you can do that.
Yeah. I think like timeline wise, I didn't want to feel rushed. So we got engaged at the end of December last year. And I just didn't really want to like start January 2026 being like,
right,
oh man, we have 6 months because we've arbitrarily picked some date just because, right? I wanted to be able to be like, let's enjoy. I did not enjoy so much like the planning of like my first wedding. And I wanted to be able to like feel like there was enough runway for us to be able to like enjoy the process, because I also understand that like, even if you enjoy the process and you love each other and you like are so happy to spend the rest of your lives together, that planning a wedding can be stressful.
Can be.
I mean, it is.
It is. Well, and you want to enjoy just being engaged.
Yeah.
Let's just enjoy that. And then you can press go. You started to open up another topic, and I do want to go into it a little bit. This whole down payment for a home. What's the story there?
We didn't buy a home.
We didn't. But I mean, that's the result.
Yeah.
I mean,
what's the story?
It started off as we had 3 properties between us in the last 5 years, like at the same time, between my house, Jess's condo, and then the place here in California. And those have all been sold in the last 5 years. And so we've accumulated a fair amount of equity from those, and that was set aside, and we were going to buy a place. And we looked and we put in offers. We were actually in escrow in one before we decided that the 400 or 200, was it 200 some pages of HOA documents was like Stepford wives. I mean, they were regulating the types of plants and the colors of planters that you could have in your private backyard.
Oh, no.
And we just realized that we didn't want to live in a community where, like, I understand the want for uniformity and for things to be nice, and people just don't have, junk cars in the front lawn and stuff like that. But color of planters, the material, like, they can't be metal. They have to be ceramic or terracotta, and they can't be over 3 feet high. And it turned into that.
Color.
So we ended up stepping away from that. I think that was about a $3,000 or $4,000 ultimately cost between inspections and other things that, we had prepaid to happen, but it was ultimately the best decision for us. I think we would have landed there and within a year been miserable.
Yeah. I like don't want to be like, I forgot about that. But yeah, it's like not a thing I think about. It happened and then it was a little stressful at the time. But yeah, I think it was the best. I think that was the best idea.
Well, I mean, I had to like double down for a moment and think, oh, am I going to double down? We've already spent this money.
Yeah.
Like, on this. We should just continue. And it took me not too long, but I really had to think about like, even if we back out, the money spent is far cheaper than the ramifications of paying an HOA attorney or dealing with an association that seemingly is extremely difficult and really or owning a house that you don't, and then you don't want to live in the house that you own.
Yeah.
I mean, both of us understand living in a house where you don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, the piece that we've talked a lot about in terms of renting versus buying is also the flexibility. So we both work from home and we happen to live in California right now and happen to very much like the weather. And so I want to keep enjoying that, but something might happen. Like I can't predict the future and one of us might need to move or we would maybe need to move for some reason to take care of a parent or something. I don't know. Like that happens. And it's much more difficult, I think, to then say, oh, wow, we can't really move or we're not flexible. Or maybe we just decide, oh man, Southern California, we're done with that. We really want snow now. And I guess you could do snow here too. We want to change it. We want to be back on the East Coast. Okay, great. Or the Midwest or whatever. And it just has a lot more flexibility if you don't own a home versus like in owning these other properties, right? Like when we sold your house, we still had like the 2 properties that I owned and like trying to find like renters. I had been very, very, very fortunate to, for most of the time, have really great and one negative renter experience. And somehow the rest of them were fabulous. Right. I don't think that's probably the norm. And like, it's just one less stress to have to think about. Did they pay their rent? Like all these things. Or, oh, does the lawn need to be mowed? Like, I don't.
Well, numbers wise too, it didn't, it was kind of a wash for us, like paying a mortgage and keeping the place up and maintenance versus having rent and someone else taking care of the maintenance. And we're also lucky. Our building is very responsive to maintenance issues. Like it's not uncommon that if you put a maintenance issue in the morning, they're already there in the early afternoon.
Wow.
To take care of it, which is not the typical experience. So we're using the fact that it'd be very different for us if that was not our case. And you'd be like, oh, it's been 6 weeks and we still don't have a washer. Oh, I'd only like to do laundry at a laundromat when we're on vacation. Kind of type deal. I feel like I've grown up enough to have my own washer and dryer at home.
So you sold your properties. I imagine you're sitting on a lot of cash from the equity of the properties, right? And we know what $40,000 went towards, right? We talked about funding the wedding. If you are comfortable sharing, did you do with the equity, the proceeds from the sales?
It sat in an account for a while because I think it took us about a year.
I call you Cash's queen. You're the queen of cash. You like, cash is king kind of phrase.
Yeah.
You like seeing that number in the account.
Okay. So I think we sat on a bunch of it for about a year. Is that accurate to say, do you think? Because I think we hadn't like given up hope that maybe we would buy something. Mm-hmm. And then after about a year, we're like, renting's really great. I think we probably already
we were vagrants for about 8 months where we moved from like long-term Airbnb to another long-term Airbnb just to try out different areas. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of informed a bunch of stuff for us on where we might and might not live. And we ended up renting down here in downtown Los Angeles, which is where we're currently. And that's also several places where we have actually looked to buy. But every time we went out, we'd find a place and be like, oh, this is great. This is perfect for what we need work-wise and try not to have shared walls between 2 offices. But it's 20% over our highest part of our already high, like what we think we could spend, even with a really large down payment. And with interest rates being sky high, it was just really hard to find something where we went, well, great. We have this lovely place. I hope we really like it because we're never going to go out and do anything. We're going to always be at home.
Yeah. We're going to always be at home. And anyone that wants to hang out, they have to come here. And also they need to bring drinks and food. because we're just being a little bit whatever. But
well, no one wants your home to be a jail. And that's what, I mean, with the mortgage of that size, we could have afforded it, but it would have been a stretch to a point. It would have felt very restrictive on enjoying other things in life that's not just where you lay your head at night.
I think so it takes me a little bit of time to kind of like make a transition with things. So like we were looking for a while to own a place. I think I was still hanging on to that. I was still thinking, I'm going to find this perfect place, And then we rented, and I felt like that really worked out. We had another conversation. Do we want to keep doing this? Yes. And then you're kind of like, well, we need to do something with this chunk of money. And I was like, we do. It's sitting in a high yield savings account. I'm looking at my few $100s coming in a month and thinking about how I have to pay tax on that. And that frustrates me. But like, yeah, I got $500 that month or something. Like, this feels safe. It is far too much anxiety for me to like look at stocks. I can't do it. It's too much. It's up, it's down. That's too emotional for me. So, but I know that I can just keep this going in this account, and that feels safe. And I feel like the money's still doing something, still earning something. Right. And you're kind of like, okay, but we could be doing something else for like the long term. You're like a long-term game person. I'm like, this feels good now.
It's lost opportunity. I mean, for me, it seemed like lost opportunity. If we're not going to do anything with this chunk of money for a long period of time, why don't we put it in the market? I realize that there's a risk to it, but we don't need it for quite a period of time. So we can write out years to overcome any sort of huge slump if we really needed to. But it is lost opportunity. And why don't we make our money work for us in this case? I mean, we worked hard to get this money. I understand you don't want to lose any of it. And that's like the safety portion of it. Yeah. But we're also losing by not taking that opportunity.
Yeah.
There's a loss in the other direction. And I realized that like long term for me is a lot easier to envision and like be steadfast on. And you prefer more, I guess, like the short term, like adrenaline, well, maybe not adrenaline hits, but feel good, like an oxytocin hits kind of type deal. And so long term is hard to feel like, well, it's never going to materialize. So why even think about it?
So what did you do?
What did we do?
We compromised.
Yeah.
Of course you compromised. How did you compromise?
Ultimately, after a lot of discussion, we decided that we would put a fair amount of the money into the market. We set aside money for like if both of us lost our jobs, not just one of us, both of us lost our jobs at the same time.
3 to 6 months.
Yeah, which that would I would imagine that added up to quite a bit of money. Just that alone.
It did. Yeah. Like it was like, I don't remember what it was for me, $45,000 or something like that for 6 months to cover expenses. And by the way, I was super glad that was there when I was working without pay during the federal government shutdown, because I used that out of work or got fired, like looking for another job. That was the money that covered me until we actually reopened pay for my time job. So I didn't worry for that time like I had before in the past at shutdowns.
Yeah, having that cash.
All I was going to add to this is that you and I have these conversations, but we also have wonderful financial planners that we have conversations with, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm just kind of like, well, if they said that that's a good idea and you're kind of like, that's a good idea, like they're experts. So like, that's what I'm here for. And I will take that advice, and I might not want to hear it, but I chew on it. Right. And so we'll take some of that information, right, from those meetings, and then go like on, have our conversation just casually, like on a walk. Right. And sometimes it just takes me a little bit of time to kind of like let things percolate. But also I think another decision that we made based on some of those conversations with our financial planners and like the two of us is I think you were ready to be like, here's $100,000 right now. And I was like, I'm having a panic attack. Like, this is what? Don't do that. And so you were like, well, what's the amount? And I'm like, I don't know, $1,000 a year. Let's go really slow. So I think we were able to, again, find like a middle ground, and I can let go of some of that fear that I must have from somewhere.
Well, I mean, ultimately, we chose to take that block of money and spread it over 6 months. So we basically dollar cost averaged what we wanted to buy over that period. So it was I think it was a lot less scary for you because it wasn't, roulette wheel. I hope we're putting the money in the market in a decent time.
At the right time. Yes.
At the right time. And so that I think was less scary. I mean, even the last two amounts, since this was last year, was even when I was in the federal government shutdown. So we were still investing, even though I wasn't getting a paycheck.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was because we felt okay about what we had. And
you were buying me an engagement ring at the same time, apparently.
I put an order in for the engagement ring the day before I found out I was going to have salary the next day.
Wow. Crazy how that timing works. You had such different approaches and different desires and what to do. You talked it out and you came up with a solution that worked for the two of you. I mean, that's incredible. And I'm sure there was a little bit of PJ, especially if you think about last year and the way the market was, maybe if we all had hindsight's 2020, we would have dumped it all in at that time. If you did at the beginning of the year, Jess, that would have made you spiral. And that would have been, and I think about if that would have happened, you wouldn't have even cared about the outcome. Who cared? It's just like, it's a blessing to be able to make financial decisions that give you comfort. And it doesn't have to be, okay, what is statistically best here? It's like, well, actually I can balance this with like, what makes me feel comfortable in this situation? Because you two are in such a unique situation. You accumulated all these dollars for a down payment. And then you said, nope, we're not doing that anymore. And now what? That's a really big decision to make. And I'm glad to hear how you two were supported in that and approached it collectively.
I will say, Natalie, because I've been reflecting on 8 years now, how different things are, not just but just in how you approach money, Jess. Like, I feel like it's easier for me to look at you than it is to look at myself and how things change.
Yeah.
But when we met, you were like, I don't need to save for retirement.
I was like, I don't have a 401k.
I don't know how much.
I might have, if I did, I had like a few $100s. Yeah. Not even 1,000, if I even had one.
And if I remember right now, you're saving like 19%.
Wow.
Of your pay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's a huge difference. Mm-hmm. And again, that's the long game, saving for retirement. Justin's like, I don't want to do that. But
I was just going to work. And then that's it. Yeah.
I said, I don't think you're going to want to be working when you're 80. Mm-hmm. So no, I mean, it's a big difference. But I think we support each other. And it's because we don't have the same point of view on everything, where things actually turn out better than if we actually probably were completely 100% aligned. Because we're able to find, well, what is the sweet spot for the different arguments and inputs that are happening right now? And what do we want the outcome to be like? Not that we have a crystal ball, but we can at least try to shape which direction we want to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It feels collaborative. And I didn't have that feeling in past relationships.
Again, we're in it together.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
So sweet.
Very sweet. As we wrap this up, you have this wedding that's coming up, and you've already done the heavy lifting financially of figuring out a way that works best for the two of you on how you talk about money, how you approach money. But like, what's next for the two of you? What are you looking forward to when it comes to your financial journey together?
Vacations.
Yeah, same. Yeah. That's like the next. We've started having conversations, and we need.
Well,
vacations.
Typically before, for vacations, even larger vacations, we pay it out of like cash flow. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes months felt very much more lean. Yeah. And we've definitely been talking about, why don't we figure out how to pre-fund vacations for 2027? Mm-hmm. So we can actually plan something with the money that we've already set aside, and we don't have to worry about, where's this coming from? Do I have to borrow a little extra money from my savings account to make the credit card payment when we get back because my paycheck's not going to come for another 2 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the next part is like, how can we enjoy the money that we make and not let it be stressful?
Yeah, because I think it makes then vacation planning stressful. At least I feel that. And then we go, we have a great time. Yeah. And then we come back and then we're like, oh, let's look at these. Where is that money coming from? And then I think for me, that has related to, oh, well, it's great if we have this chunk of money that were not in before we started investing it, right? Because then it's just there. But now we're giving that, like we're moving it somewhere else. And if we don't have that, then I was feeling like anxious. I mean, we still have a rainy day fund and all of these fun things, but like, you know, it was just like this, yeah, I just want to go and have fun on vacation and not have to like feel like we come back and go, oof. Yeah. Okay.
A little bit of planning and goes a long way.
Yeah. And communicating around it, talking about how much you're going to spend on the finances, and then you spend all the money and it's already been saved. You're just paying off the credit card with the money that was already earmarked for the travel account. And it's such a great way to go about it.
Yeah. That's our goal.
Well, thank you, PJ, Jessica, for being on our podcast. It was such a joy talking with the two of you. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Hey, if you've enjoyed this episode and are looking for personalized financial guidance, schedule a free complimentary consultation using the link in the description below. Natalie and Dan Slagle are the founding partners of Fuse Financial Planning, a registered investment advisor. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered investment advice or a recommendation to buy or sell any securities. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Advisory services are offered to clients or prospective clients where Fuse Financial Planning and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. For more information, including our disclosures, please visit our website at www.fusefinancial.com.